So yeah, doing more cleaning up from the show, and then I'm gonna start tackling the room, hopefully, because I have like even copper tape laying here, because of course I did copperize the rails last week. Um, a good and dear friend of mine for over 2 decades now. I posted on Facebook about the copper rails and how fantastically awesome they worked at the show. And he was very kind and said, well, that's just absolutely amazing. And I really appreciate that sentiment from a good and dear friend. So I thought I'd lead with that. I really genuinely, let me pronounce the word correctly. I'm tired, so I don't, my enunciation when I'm tired goes right out the window. I have to put some conscious effort into hello, how are you? Instead of like, blah, 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 wah, wah, like Myth Othmar from Peanuts. Wah, 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 wah. What's that, Myth Othmar? Wah, 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 wah. That's a way back machine right there. So I appreciate that. But anyway, so I am just puttering around the Lego room and finding stuff that I should clean up, like stuff I should clean up. But speaking of cleaning up, so at the show, I spent an inordinate amount. See, enunciation. An inordinate amount of time taking the layout down. Slower than normal, and then again I was puttering setting it up, but I was puttering taking it out, even though I knew I had like a 7-hour drive ahead of me to get back home. Lesson learned, by the way, if you're in a 4-day convention from Thursday to Sunday, and the convention's over at 5 or 6 p.m., and you've driven 7 hours to get there, book Monday off. And sleep over. Yes, it's one more hotel night. That's going to cost you some money, but in the end, it was a fine drive, and I've driven farther on less sleep. So, but I am older now, so I don't want to push myself. But it was absolutely not even close to a problem last night to drive home, and traffic was exemplary. But speaking of cleaning, talk about this thing. So I got these bags, and I got this bag. So what happens? And I realize this, and other people who probably have somewhat bigger layouts that require maintenance, shall we say, and require the subtle differences from show to show and pieces that get added and pieces that get removed. I was noticing that my 8 boxes, I have a couple drawers. There's the happy drawers with the spaceships and the vehicles and all stuff, and there's the other drawers that have like all the miscellaneous, the light standards and all the pieces that go out there in the layout, all the doodads, the gizmos, the water evaporators. That has changed over the years, and what happens usually is that, oh, I have an idea and I have some spare minifigs and I add them to the layout, and then when I'm done with the show, those just get thrown into that drawer, or other pieces and parts and whatever. So for this show and this show only, I spent some time thinking about what I wanted to display that wasn't in the 8 boxes. So I brought all these with me. I'm just going to put them out here because they're a bit mangled up because I put them in this thing. And I'll reconstitute them. I highly doubt I'm going to make a video about it, but I'll reconstitute them. And well, this one's going to go back on the shelf over here. This one is my rendition, my personal rendition of that's a very obscure quote, by the way, my very personal rendition of the 918, and I used the Lego Movie 2 wing piece, and I said I'm going to try to make a spaceship that is reminiscent of the 918, and I was very, very impressed how well it turned out. It is one of my personal favorite builds of mine. and I don't have too many favorite builds of mine because, like, I'm a hack. But put this on. So I think that, well, the antenna has to be on there, and these guys, that one. And I tried to make it as light blay as possible. but I could not do everything in light blue. I'm still missing. There we go. There we go. And this is also when I put the green and the red, because that's naval nautical. But this is my personal rendition of the 918 using that Benny spaceship base, and there's Benny in there, and of course it says 918-C because like Star Trek. Whoa, forgot the rocket thruster. Amateurs. The only thing that I could not get in light blue was these doors. So these are light gray doors, and the rest of it is light blue except for the blue, whatever's not light gray. And I like this because I even got to add the whatever you want to call it, the stamp of Classic Space onto this set. I mean, I could just put a gray 2x3 plate in there and it would be fine, but I thought that'd be cuter because that's what was on the Benny spaceship, the small one. And then also, I think the big one I kept. They actually trying to put, I honestly can't, it's right up there, and I don't feel like standing to look at it. And I don't remember off the top of my head if they did it like a yellow, black, yellow on Benny's spaceship. But this one has it. And then I stole this from the Neo Classic Space. There's this gap here and back there. I thought that was really cool because that's the way it was going to work in order for him to sit inside. But I like this. This is one of my favorite builds. It really is. I think it looks cool. It's a direct homage to the original, and yet it's different enough to be, woo, that's cool for me. Anyway, so that's just going to go back up there. It's not going to come back to a show in the near future. This guy, because I was actually looking for one of these guys. This guy, I know a guy. I was looking for one because in my original, my first bunch of shows, first bunch of years, I had one of these in the box, and I alternate. This is fun. I'm looking for, not that one. Well, maybe that one. I'll put this on it. Oh, it's this one. There we go. Just, and so what happened was I don't know how one of these got out of the layout box and back into my totes in the garage, because I like that ad hoc area in the front right hand corner. Sometimes it has a rocket launch and sometimes it's a geological survey, and I like to alternate between either shows or even days at shows. I'll swap it out at shows where the Friday is a rocket launch day and Saturday is geological surveying. But I was unable to do the rocket launch for the longest time because I didn't have this set here. This is the mobile tracking center. It is a necessity for a rocket launch in my world, in universe. So, and so for 2 or 3 years, or probably last because that goes back to COVID, but in 2 years, I did not have this in the pull-out drawer with all the other vehicles. And I'm going, what did I do with it? And I started saying, maybe somebody took it off the layout and I didn't notice, but I think I would notice something like that. And I inherently trust everybody to not walk away with my stuff, a place for my stuff. Another obscure reference to something completely different. So I went looking for one, and I found two at exactly the same time. So I threw both in there. And I think what was happening is I was looking to see what trans-cleared radar dishes / shields from, Classic Castle I had, because I believe I have 5, and I only found 2 of these. So there's another one somewhere, because this one, 5 good ones. This one has the broken handle. There's no handle inside. I think I got a few more over there of the shield without the handle on it. And so since I found both at the same time, I decided to bring both at the same time for the layout. And so this is the layout, the one time only, where I had, I'm gonna put that over here, where I had two rocket launchers, and there's the other one here that I'm gonna rebuild in a second, and 2 mobile sonars, whatever you call it, mobile tracking station. I had 2 of them, and then I had 2 of the little guys with the dish on the back. So it was like 2, 2, and 2. And it was really, I thought it looked really cool. No, because there's usually 1, 1, and 2, because I always have 2 of the little radar dish trucks in the layout, and they've always been there. And then but I did not have room then in that ad hoc area for the all-terrain vehicle, so it stood off to the side farther out, and that's fine. So for this show only, I had here's me speaking French, 2 mobile tracking stations and 2 rocket launchers. And so I brought one of those back, and I brought one of these back, because I won't be doing that going forward. Does that? Yeah, it goes right there. Or is it this one? No, it's not that one. I'm missing a. Are you sure it's not? I think it's that one. Which means that that's not the right one. So this is me putting this stuff back together and trying to remember how to do it without instructions, because the second thing that goes with the memory. So anyway, when I was done the show on Sunday, and everybody was packing up, I decided to clean up the boxes and pull out parts that have never been used in the layout for years. And I think that was a worthy endeavor. And right now, that guy's not even part of it. Wow, yeah, that goes there. That goes there. It's been a long time. It's been a minute, huh, Mav? Hey, I've been saying that all day today. I am missing this little thing here. Oh, there it is. And that goes there. That goes on there. So he's good, and he connects to here. I'm missing a tire. That goes there. It's, it is. I always find it fun to reconstitute sets. I did not put an axle through here. I'm actually surprised by that. There's no axle in here. Hope flows. There wasn't one in the original, but I should have. And wait, I did grab a piece off of here for something else. There we go. Because I was missing one of these in the layout, so I ripped it off of here when I was putting everything away. Oops. Yeah, that goes there, that goes there. And now that guy is quote unquote complete. Oh, I think I missed this piece over here. This guy's got to have floor runners there. And this guy's got to have a steering wheel. And this guy's got to have a new gun. This came from the Benny spaceship. This was in the layout for a long time. It's cute, but I want it more classic, so I took him out. This guy, if you are my age, you will recognize this guy. There was never any instructions for it, nor do you really need them. This guy was one of those brochures, just by itself. And I said, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. So I built a whole fleet of them at one point. And he was in the layout, but I hardly pull him out anymore. So I just leave that alone, leave that be. And that goes there. And this goes here, possibly. And this goes over here, possibly. Put them there. And this goes, I don't know where this place goes. Oh, whatever. So, so all these guys will be rolled into, I actually gotta put them here, into Ziplocs and put into storage again, which is fine. So that's the fun bag done. And love the tracking stations, mobile tracking stations. It's a great set. But again, so is the rocket. 3-digit sets are awesome, period. All of them are awesome. Now, again, we always talk about how this was in 3 sets. And people say, no, it wasn't, because the one, oh, I'm missing the thing. I probably lost it somewhere. The one didn't come with an antenna. The one that's in the Galaxy Explorer, sure. It didn't come with an antenna. I don't think it came with the back clip either. I can't remember. I don't think it did. But the overall buggy was in 3 different sets. But anyway, so now, swallowed wrong. Excuse me. Now we get to the miscellaneous parts and pieces bag that just got piled up over the years from various shows. And what's in here is I keep on meaning to do various things, like a spare train motor, shirt, battery box for testing the life lights, shirt, life lights extended wire, because you never know when you're going to need it. But the rest here, 2 spare monorail motors. And again, I'm going to reiterate this. I have done shows, space shows, space layout shows since 2007. Our very first layout had a monorail on it. I honestly can't remember which one it was. If it was one I built or one Jeff built. I think it was one I built. Since 2007, and we used to do 4 or 5 shows a year. And then we used to do, I did conventions, and then like Brick World and all the Brick Fets and blah, blah, blah. And the Bricks in the Six and now Brickomania, where it runs for 4 days straight. And back when I was not a kid, because monorail showed up when I was 20. I don't know which one's my original. I keep on thinking the one that's in the layout's my original, but it could be any one of these. That's my original. And none of them have died. As a matter of fact, as if you're a friend of this channel for long enough, you'll know that I got a dead one, quote unquote dead one, off of a Bricklink seller years ago, and I took it apart and put it back together, and it worked again. So I've never had a dead monorail motor. Now these guys, I've killed 1 or 2. I've seen lots die when people have like large train layouts and stuff like that. So these guys will die eventually. This guy, not one, and I own, I think, 12 minimum of these monorail motors. Not one has ever died. And the ones that are in the layout have always been in the layout. Like, I haven't swapped them out. These are just my spares, just in case. And I keep, I'm gonna make sure I have a spare monorail motor. And I get to the show. I already had one. As a matter of fact, I had 3. And the 3rd one is upstairs in the electrical box. So I took 2 and I put them in the bag. Then I said, I'm gonna bring them back home. So spare monorail pieces, which are irrelevant to me now because they're not copperized. They will not help in my layout anymore. So unless I copperize these guys, no point in having them. This guy, I don't know why. People are crying right now. This was spare, just in case I needed to make another support somewhere. Just spare pieces that I can just break apart and throw somewhere. And this one too. So spare pieces. This, I have to rebuild the the rocket launch platform, because in a crisis situation, you rip apart stuff to see if it's going to make the train run better, and you can't put it back together because you're at a show and there's not too many people. So you'll see a whole bunch of black pieces in here, like that. I ripped apart the track going underneath the rocket launch platform, and I made it pretty again, but there's no interior pieces now, so I have to fix that. This was I put this in the layout after Bricks in the Six, because this was part of Bricks in the Six. This was also part of Bricks in the Six, and there's one in the layout still, and it's going to stay there. Fantastic. The duck mech. Thank you, Simon. That one's missing pieces, but I can't have 2 Fleebnorks in my layout. I don't know how I got 2, but I had 2 in my layout, so I grabbed one and brought it home. So I'm going to hide them somewhere so it doesn't attack anybody when they walk into this room. 2 of the turtles. I have 1 still in the layout. I don't need 3, so I brought 2 home. This guy, again, just like the Benny vehicle, I had him in the layout for one show at Bricks in the Six, and I said, I like them because the 10497, best set they put out in a while, but it just doesn't fit into the, if it doesn't have these tires, although the old train vehicle, that I digress, as they say, and just a whole slew, an absolute. So here's the spare gray tank for that guy. I always, and again, I always have spare gray tanks there because they disappear, not maliciously, they just get lost. And there's just a whole bunch of minifigs. Like, look at all the minifigs here. Minifigs that were supposed to be inside that probably fell out of the building, and I haven't put them back in. Here's another one. So lots of, again, that goes back to the entire layout was girl minifigs. There's a whole bunch of girl minifigs here. That's because now, and then this guy fell out from somewhere, and I haven't bothered putting them back. I'm not going to. So there's a whole bunch of minifigs. A whole bunch of blue tiles. Again, those were for the monorail, but now I narrowed down the bag. I have a few spare 1x4 plates and tiles in the bag when I put together the monorail, but I don't need an extra 50. So I think I have like 8 or 10. I did plan on putting some trolls into the layout because I found these at Valley Village a few months back. I put the other one in, and this one did not get in there. So she came home. Robots came home. This was for my Easter egg hunt that I still haven't finished yet, where I have, hey, look, how many black robots? Black robots are the biggest helper in the layout for the running the space base. How many black robots do you see? And there's supposed to be like 6 out there. So black robots came home, except for 2. These guys came home and they're in pieces. And then, as I say, these guys came off the train track that I took apart. And so, and this guy, very important, as torso. Let's see. I don't know if you can see it properly. That's not focusing on that guy. Brickfet. Fantastic. And so, yeah, here's the arm for the duck mech. Thank you, Simon. That goes up here. And let's see if I can find the other one really quick. Probably not. Another robot that came back. So anyway, that's what happened. And then the top of the turtle, because these things, everything falls off when you're throwing everything into a bag. So I'm going to sort all these pieces back into the collection and sort these guys back onto the wall. What I did notice, and I'll have to put them back into the layout, is that in Brickomania, which never happened before, which is awesome, is this is the torso. Oh, here we go, torso. This is Lavelle, and it says Lavelle 23, which is 2023. On the back, it has your name on it. That's awesome. So everybody got their own printed minifig. Everybody. And so I'm going to convert this into a person inside the building. And so that's going to go back onto the layout. And of course, we got that over there. That's Brickomania right there, because that's c'est bon. But anyway, I think that's what I'm going to say for now. Oh, and during my cleanup process, this is why you clean up. I found a 1x2 gray, not stickered, one, and I don't know how, like, why it was jammed in wherever I found it. I found it in a really odd spot. Like, it must have fallen off. Years ago, I had the 6890, and I don't have any near me right now, which is odd. I had 6890s in the layout, but they were blue and gray. I changed them to, instead of white and blue and trans dark blue, I changed them to gray wings and blue bricks, and all the blue bricks stay the same, and trans yellow. But of course, I would have had that piece on the back of it, and I think that's where it came from years ago. So when I was cleaning up, and I think it was the rails underneath the rocket launch, and then when I was taking it apart, this thing fell out, and I'm going, oh, that's where it's been. And it's been like a decade. So that was pretty funny. I thought that was odd, because I actually this is the only one I have as spare right now. I have my gray bin of bits right here, my printed bits, and I don't have any of these because I built 17 of the 6890s, and that required. The cleanup is fine. I did for the longest time bring spares of these, and I never use them. And if I lost one at a show, I'd worry about it after the show. Like, I should maybe keep 2 or 3. Like, there's over 24 in this pile. I should have just kept 2 or 3, but I'll think about it before the next show, or forget about it. And when I'm at the next show, I'll lose one and I'll need it and I won't have one, which is probably what's going to happen. For now, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm really not going to worry about it. So all those came out, and I can make another classic space gray guy here because he was in the building. Now, do I want to source the hands? I don't know. I'm not worried about it. I'm not that meticulous like that. Again, people who are, and again, I want to be very clear about this, and I keep on saying this to cover my hiney. People who are, I adore. Don't get me wrong. People who are that, they have to have the light gray hands. Magnifique. fantastic. And I admire and appreciate and love your dedication to that. As for me, I ain't doing it. If I get them, I get them. I know I completed 3 because I had enough minifigs in my own collection that I had the light gray hands. Now I'm out of light gray hands, and I haven't bothered bricklinking them. I'm if they come my way, they come my way. The other thing is this guy. I brought that because we're, excuse me, we are. I needed to make light sensors work properly for the monorails to for the RCX to know where the monorails were. But all the loops have one of these on it, so I don't need to have a spare. I've never ever had one of these die. Friends of mine have had these die. I've never had one of these die. I've got used lots where they were dead, but mine that I got, and so I love tangents and love stories. So we went to Brick World Chicago in 2010. It was was it even Brick World Chicago? I don't think it was the original Brick Fest, the 2004 Brick Fest that I went to. I think it was Brick World Chicago. I don't think they had any kind of thing to do with the malls back then and Lego stores, even if there were Lego stores. But in Brick World Chicago, we went to the Lego store after hours. It was great. And they had I bought the Maersk train, and other people bought the Millennium Falcon. There was a whole skid of Maersk trains, and there was a whole skid of Millennium Falcons at the time. I went with the Maersk train, but whatever. And I liked it because we did that with Legos. But anyway, whilst I was there at the Lego store at Brick World Chicago, I believe, they had a service pack. Box full of service packs that came with the 4-inch wire, a 9-volt wire, and the light and the chrome half dish to go on light for the Santa Fe. It was a Santa Fe lighting kit basically, or any other train lighting kit, and they were stupid cheap, and I bought at least 12 of them. I think it was at least 12 of them. And I keep on, every once in a while, I need to, and what I use this for usually is to shine into, I don't think I have one here, to shine into the light sensor, because then you avoid the issues with the light in the room, because then you have to go into the program and you have to adjust those values depending on what room you're in. And that just gets annoying. But if you have a light shining straight into the sensor, the room could be dark, white, brilliant, doesn't matter. This thing is what's shining into the sensor, and that's what the sensor picks up. And usually I don't have to play with the numbers at all. And speaking of which, so from Bricks in the 6 to this, 3 loops remained identical than they were at Bricks in the 6. And I had tweaked the program for the monorail to stop at every station, so it crosses the light stream, breaks the light stream, so the RCX knows that the train just went past light sensor, and then it's just time. Then QC 1,000 milliseconds to the next, or a tenth of a second to the next stop. So basically 2 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever, to the next stop. At the habitat, at the rocket launch, at the main tower, at the train station, and again, I fully understand the variability of these motors, the variability of the wheels on the track, the variability of the temperature of the room. Like, all those have to be taken into consideration, and I realize that, but that is plus or minus minuscule amount. So if you set the train or the monorail to stop A, B, C, and then cross the stream again, reset the program, A, B, C, cross the stream, A, B, and C. That time from the sensor to A, from A to B and B to C, is a consistent value, and sometimes the train is it'll stop sometimes 2 inches after the next loop, or 2 inches before, and that's perfectly acceptable to me. Like, you'll see in some of these videos where the train is farther back on the platform or further ahead on the platform. As long as it's anywhere near the platform, I'm not going to be, because it does change from loop to loop, and there's a variety of factors. Again, the temperature and whatever. The other thing is that the polling of the RCX. Now, the RCX is pretty good at pulling, but when the train's coming along and it breaks that stream, sometimes it doesn't register until it's already like an inch past it, or right on the tip of it, or like over here, and that's fine. So, but it's always within two, I would say, +2, -2 inches of zero of the stopping point that it's supposed to be. But from bricks in the 6 to Brickomania, and I don't know if it was humidity or whatever it was, the numbers were completely off. And it was exactly the same program on exactly the same loop on exactly the same train. Because the train loops that didn't change, loop 1 to 1 and 2, the main loop had the same train on it, monorail on it, and loop 2 with the shuttle carriers, exactly the same train, exactly the same weight, exactly the same everything, and yet wildly off. So I had to go back in the program and readjust the numbers, which takes time, because again, what I do is I get my stopwatch, my phone, and I cross the stream, and I made the RCX beep in the program, and you can't hear it at a show when everybody's walking past, but every time a monorail breaks the stream, there's a beep, and loop 1, loop 2, and loop 3 all have different beeps, so I know which one's which. And so as soon as I hear the beep, I hit the timer, and then I see it stop at the rocket launch. Okay, and I stop the timer, and I also stop the monorail, because again, I have my NQC up, and I just hit stop, and then I set the time to that number on my stopwatch, and then let it come around again, and then it goes through, and then it stops at the first station, and it was like plus or minus 200 milliseconds, or tenths of a second. It was like holy moly! It was like that's huge. It really is. Yeah, sorry, it is milliseconds, because it is 1,000 milliseconds for 1 second on this NQC. I'm using the new firmware that makes it 100 times faster, I think. And so that was okay. To stop at the first one perfectly, get the stopwatch, to go to the second one, and then change the number, and then the third one, and change the number, and that's what I have to do for each loop. And what happens is, then what I noticed, and this is a deficiency. What I notice is the train variable, because I have to fix the rocket launch, but the loop 2 and 4, 2 being the shuttle carrier loop, and 4 is just the guy just going around in circles. They stopped every time exactly where they're supposed to stop all 4 days after I changed the numbers to make them accurate. They stopped perfectly fine through the entire show. I didn't have to adjust the numbers once after I did the initial adjustment, which is utterly fantastic. Loop 1, which is my oldest mock built monorail, and it's also literally the heaviest, because it's a ton of brick in that thing. As the day went on, you would see it slowing down, you see it stopping before further and further back along the track before the station, and I'm just saying, oh, the motor's getting beat up, a lot of dust, whatever it is, the motor's getting whatever. And then I go for lunch and come back, and then it stops after the station. It doesn't seem to have the same variability when it stops after the station, but it's still like it's after, and very sporadically, very infrequently, it stopped exactly where it's supposed to stop, which is what I timed it for the first time, and I looped it like 5 or 6 times, and it's working. And then I walk away, and I notice it's slowing down, and I don't know if it has something to do with the heat of the room, and whatever, maybe the motor's overheating and it has to slow down, whatever it is. So I thought, for the first time ever, I replaced the monorail motor, right? Thinking that it was the monorail motor. And I noticed a slight improvement, but it wasn't a solid improvement, because it was not consistent in where it stopped. And it wasn't just plus or minus 2 inches, it was plus or minus 10 inches. So 20 inches, give or take, from the landing platform, or the train station. It's where that thing would stop. And the consistent part is that if it stopped well before the first station, it stopped really well before the second one station. It was like not even close to the third station, like really far back. So it always delay. If it was ahead when it stopped at the first station, it'd always be twice as ahead on the second station, and 3 times ahead in the third station. And I'm going, this is the oddest thing. Like, if it was the motor's like slowing down, then it'd always be consistently slowing down. But sometimes it'd be speeding up. But that loop would be speed up for all the stations, like double and triple from the second and third. And I'm going, it made 0 sense to me. And I could have been resistant in the copper. Like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I also know I think the variability is also impacted by how heavy that one monorail is, because it's heavy. It's stupid heavy. The shuttle carrier is the lightest thing in the world. Like there's hardly anything there, and the one that was going up by the going up the loop and by the habitat, I replaced the other monorail with that one because that's the one I converted over with brushes on the bottom so it could go on the copper. That ran pretty consistently. The one issue with that one is it goes up a loop and it comes down a loop. And I mentioned this years ago, but the brushes on the bottom of the bogies of the monorail are brushes, and they come out a hole by the front of the brush, front of the bogie, and they go underneath towards the back. So when you're going across the monorail and the copper, that's perfect. But as soon as you go backwards, the wires catch on the copper strips, and it becomes a bird's nest. It becomes like it's not pretty at all. It's like running a slot car backwards. All those brushes will just get completely mangled. If you're going forwards, it just keeps it perfectly nice. So the problem is that, and I didn't even think about this, is that the sensors at the top near the tower. So the monorail comes up the ramp, goes around the curve on the back, hits the sensor, so the RCX knows that's where it is, and then it comes around onto the tower platform and stops. Perfect every single time throughout the entire show. Perfect right there. Chef's kiss. It was great. It comes around and it goes down the slope and it stops because it's a train station. And I'm going, but it's on a slope, and in universe, like, the people are not going to get off on a slope, and maybe I should make a ladder. I don't know. I've thought about some certain things to fix that, but it stops in the train station, and it stops basically to float. So then sometimes it'll coast out more. So now the monorail is further ahead than it would have been had it stopped dead. And sometimes it's 6 inches because the weight of the thing on the slope will push it forward. And sometimes it stops dead and it stays right there. So that's a little bit variable. So when it comes around the habitat, sometimes it's before or after, whatever. But then it goes back up the slope. And I stopped it again, which was a stupid thing to do. Because as soon as it gets halfway up the slope, it stops, and then it just goes backwards, which makes a mess of the pickups. It can't go backwards right now. I mean, that's the one deficiency of my monorails right now, except for the one that's on the little one that's got this copper plates on the bottom that can go any direction it wants. But the rest of them, because it's using brushes, you cannot go backwards without making a mess of the brushes. And so I have to come up with a better solution for that, because this was, and I've said this at the show, and people, hey, it's copper. And I said, this is the first time ever, no batteries in the entire layout, which was just fantastic. And I don't have to worry about it. I can walk away and not worry about things dying. I mentioned that, so I'm not going to mention it again. But I was so happy with it that I'm willing to overlook the fact that you can't go backwards. I am, because whatever. But it is a deficiency. I do have ideas, but I'm going to work on rewiring it, because the other thing is, I mentioned in my overview at the show, the one section of the tower completely dead. I was fiddling with something, and all 8 lights went out. I don't know why. I haven't taken it apart yet. I still don't know why right now. And I thought, well, if I'm taking this thing apart anyway to redo the wiring, because I want to do it better and make it easier to connect, because it was a pain in the butt to get all the wires into the building and out of the building and blah, blah, blah. And I have to make the sensors for the other 2 loops that I just added, like the train and the ramp loop on the monorail. I have to have a permanent way of getting the wires from those sensors back to the RCX without people seeing the wires. So that's going to be fun. And then what I'm thinking about right now is, because right now loops 2 and 4 are over at the rocket platform. That's where the sensors are, and that's where the lights are for crossing the stream. And that has to get all the way back to the RCXs. And so I just keep on running just underneath the layout. I just keep on running 9-volt wires, which I just had here, and I can't believe whatever. 9-volt wires. Oh, 9-volt wires. this also came back because I don't need an extra light sensor. And so to get from the rocket launch platform back to the RCXs at the back of the layout, I have to run wires underneath, and that was a bit of a pain. That took time. So, and there was 4 because there's 2 powers and there's 2 sensors. So 4 sets of wires have to get back to the RCX from the rocket launch platform. And so what I'm going to do, and I don't think I have it here downstairs right now. No, I don't think I brought it downstairs. I'm going to, this is the one train, the monorail train that came home, by the way. It's no longer in the layout because the other, it's not wired. I don't have brushes on the contacts, so I brought them home. I'm not going to take them apart. I like this one. It's not going to come apart. I may add brushes in the future, but right now I'm just going to leave them here. And so that's one less thing I have to bring, and it made things fit better, by the way, not having that there. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a ribbon cable instead of individual wires, like a set of wires. I'm gonna get a ribbon cable because there's 4 connections, 8 wires that has to go there anyway. And I'm gonna run a ribbon cable just like I did with the lighting, with the Life Lights lighting. I'm gonna just put the 9-volt connectors on the end of the ribbon cable, and then have it joined together on one ribbon to come back. And I'm going to try to combine the train and loop 1 and loop 3 as another ribbon cable. So I only will have 2 ribbon cables coming back to the control center. So that's a future plan. So I don't have all these wires everywhere. And that's the one thing that nobody saw them, because when I pushed the controller back underneath the layout, so it's just poking out and I can look at it, and I put that little covering there, you can't see all the spaghetti of wires underneath the layout. You can't see them, which is fine, but they're there and it bothers me. So I'm going to work on that to get ribbon cables going to where they have to go. I was originally thinking about just getting, because I can make my own wires now, just make my own wires whatever length I want and just braid them together. But I'm not really, no, I don't need to do that. I'm just going to get a ribbon cable. So the spool of wires that we get, that my buddy battery powered bricks told me to source, the wires only come in a ribbon of 6, and I'll need at least a ribbon of 8. So I'm gonna probably, and I got over here. Oh my goodness, it's time for bed. I have over here somewhere. So I bought this originally for the lighting, and I'm in IT, so this is like old stuff. I have ribbon cable. I have lots of it. The only problem is it's gray, it's not black. And am I gonna care? I'm gonna test it, and I'm sure you're gonna hear about it. So there is specific future state that I'm gonna be working on very, very soon, because I don't know when the next show is gonna be. Excuse me, but I want to be ready for it, because no matter what show it is, because the lighting I don't have to do at most of the shows until the next LEGO convention, because there's nobody else has the lights out. But the power to the rails is very important to set up. Quick, efficient, good, and done. That's what I want to do. So I will absolutely keep you posted on that, and we will see what happens. So anyway, I wanted to talk about what I've cleaned up out of the layout. I've cleaned up all this stuff out of the layout. You can see here, all of it. That, and that, and that, and that, and that. What else? That. And one of those, and one of those. Do I have more of that in here? Yeah, I do. There you go. And there you go. Why am I missing the front? I'm missing the pilot. Am I missing the pilot? I am missing the front. Filling up that. Oops. There it is. Sorry, I thought I was missing this. Very important to keep. But in the end, all this came out of the blue boxes, and that's saving me space and time and like trying to dig through pieces. But I did keep a Ziploc full of minifigs that I took off the layout that were in a spot that couldn't stay on top of the base plates. So I got a bag of minifigs for that, and it's contained, and I should remember where they go. Probably won't, but we'll see what happens. So there you go, 45 minutes, and I actually didn't go off on too many tangents. Yeah, I'm going to bed now. Oh, sorry, we're gonna have one more tangent, but very much related. I was talking to my good friend Mike on the way home, and we talked about conventions and the convention high that people get, and then they go on convention crash after because they come home and then back to work and whatever, all that stuff. And that happened to me a lot way back in the day when I attended like a lot of youth rallies and stuff like that for convention weekends. It's never really happened with a Lego convention for me, and I'll tell you why. I love Lego conventions. I get a really huge high on Lego conventions, like just from the endorphins released in my bloodstream from just seeing all my wonderful friends, making new friends, having a great time, talking about geeking out on my favorite hobby, and our collective favorite hobby, and this one too. So I get really excited and happy, and I you know, but I don't have a crash afterwards. And the reason why, I mean, it comes down, the high doesn't stay high because it was like, oh, this is the best thing ever. And I get to see everybody's mocks and talk to people and whatever. But then it comes down on Monday, today, because today I took off. Tomorrow I'm back to work. And then it evens out because look where I am. And I get to think about my layout. I get to work on it for the next show, and I get really excited again about what I'm going to show in the next time, and see how much I can improve it for next time. And so I do not have I do not have a crash. It does lessen the high of, obviously will go away, but I don't have a crash where I'm like because I can still get to play, and I contact all my friends online, and we talk, what a great show we had, and that's what we're gonna do in the future, and we plan, you're gonna have a great time in the thing. So I want people to keep in mind that there's gonna be another one, and just look at the big picture, and then go play in your living room and build something for the next one. I said so many times this weekend, my favorite thing to do right now for this Lego hobby of ours, is to do shows, period. It is my absolute favorite thing to do is shows. Whether it's a 4-day convention or a 5-hour show in a library, I love doing shows. Now, what I'm bringing to these shows is going to vary depending on what the actual show is about. If it's a long show, then yes, I'm bringing the layout overall. If it's a small show, Sandy and I are going to work on something that we can bring to a small show and just drop on a table and walk away. But I love shows. And it's not the actual general sense of the show. I guess remind later. It's not the general sense of the show, although that's part of it. Specifically, it's engaging with the audience. It's engaging with the public. It's engaging. And I sent Sandy a text. And I told Dave this. It was on I think it was yesterday, Sunday. It might have been Saturday because there wasn't a lot of people. Anyway, there's the ebbs and flows of all shows. Sometimes it's packed, sometimes it's not packed, and that's another thing that I talked about the show earlier. That was fantastic because there you never felt claustrophobic, but that's a whole other story. But anyway, what happens is sporadically, I'll be at my layout for 2 or 3 hours talking to people, and then when it kind of there's nobody there it doesn't look like, I look around, it doesn't look like anybody's coming towards the layout. Oh, I'm gonna go for a walk. And I'll step out and I'll go check out other people's mocks, and I'll go see where the crowds are and blah, blah, and see what they're gawking over, and oh yeah, that is awesome, and blah, blah. And I'll talk to the creators and the builders and blah, blah. I'll go talk to the organizers. I harass. straight up, and Graham knows this, and Dave knows this now. If you're organizing a show and you're running the show and you're sitting over there in the corner, I'm going to go over and sit beside you. just to say hi and say thank you very much. But anyway, so I start walking around. And then if something really captivates me right then, because I try to take pictures of everything. I'm not Abner or anything. I'm not as great as Abner on this at all. But I try to take a lot of pictures, and sometimes I forget. But if something really captivates me, I'll take a picture of it right there, and then I'll start uploading it to Facebook, to my Facebook. If you want to look me up on Facebook, go ahead. Just make sure you say that you are looking me up on Facebook. Hi, Dave. I saw you in the YouTubes, and I want to, be a friend. That's fine. If you don't put that there, I do not know who you are. So this is attention. I do not know who you are. And what's going to happen is you're going to get a polite response from me saying, hi. Since I'm inundated with a lot of spammers and a lot of hackers and a lot of people I don't know, and I don't know why they want to be my friends. Are we related? Were we friends in the past? Or do we have a mutual interest in some hobby, like my woodworking, my scuba diving, and or this, right? And if you don't respond, I'm not adding you. So I will reach out to you just in case you forgot. If you send me the friend request with a message saying, hey, Dave, I saw you on YouTube. I want to join, be your friend. Absolutely. And if you don't, you don't, because I keep on telling you guys that you do what you want to do. Don't like and subscribe if you don't want to. Don't become my friend on Facebook if you don't want to. But should you choose to become my friend on Facebook, and the majority of my Facebook is dedicated to my hobbies and camping and stuff like that and family, I have no problem with that. But if you don't say anything in the original request, or when I respond to you saying, do we have mutual interest, and you don't respond, delete. Because I will not, too many spammers, too many hackers, but I still love Facebook for my personal use. My Instagram channel is rarely looked at all by me. When I post to Facebook, it posts the pictures to Instagram, and I know that people respond. And post comments on my Instagram. I check out my Flickr channel more often than I check out my Instagram. I should change that. My wife keeps on saying Instagram is where it's at. I ebbs and flows for me, but overall it's a neb right now. But anyway, where was it going? Son of a, too many tangents. I forgot what we were talking about. Because I'm tired and I should be going to bed. Ebbs and flows. That was it? No, it was something else. Something else very important, and I forgot it. Anyway, sorry, I forgot that tangent on a tangent. The first tangent. I had a really important thing to make, and what's probably going to happen, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to look at it, figure it out, and I'll see you in a second.